The Olympic dream is over for the Tillies. Australia have been knocked out of the Olympics after a disappointing group stage, losing 2-1 to USA in the final group stage game. It's been an absolute disaster from an Australian point of view, especially considering at the previous Olympics, we made it to the final four, lost in the bronze medal match against USA last year, finishing in the semi-finals of the Women's World Cup. Our greatest ever finish in a Women's World Cup last year on home soil, and this time around, crashing out in the group stage. 1 win, 2 losses. USA were just too strong in the end. 2 goals either side of halftime for the US. Rodman with a goal from another set piece. Again, Australia conceding from a set piece, which is really, really disappointing yet again. It's been a reoccurring theme that we've seen at this tournament from an Australian point of view. Defensively, we're just not coping with set pieces at the moment. And then a fantastic strike from Albert in the second half. Alana Kennedy grabbing the only goal for Australia in this game. She was sent up forward late on in the match as we were chasing a couple goals to get ourselves back into the game. She almost got a second a moment later as well. 2-1 in the end for the US. This is the lineup that we saw for this game, man. It was interesting to see Toni Gustafsson changing things up a little bit, which I didn't mind. To go in for a defensive approach, we knew we needed to get at least a draw from this game. Caitlin Torpey given a start here. Great to see her starting, and she was playing in that left wing back role with Steph Catley shifting into that centre back position alongside Hunt and Kennedy as well. So it was an interesting lineup, and look, front three with plenty of threat with Rasso, Ford, and Fowler. They were sort of interchanging positions throughout the match as well. But the concern, once again, and it feels like everyone's been crying out for this, is Michelle Heyman. I mean, this was the game that she had to start. This was the game that she was surely needed. I mean, we saw it at the end of the game, the way that Michelle Heyman assisted that goal for a Kennedy. The long ball coming in, I think it was from Caitlin Ford, and Michelle Heyman was that focal point. That's what she provides, and she's that natural striker that I think we needed and we missed dearly throughout this tournament. I mean, who knows? Maybe she has been carrying an injury. Maybe that's why she's been playing limited minutes. We don't know. That's the problem. But if she hasn't, it's a really bizarre decision, I think, considering, in these games where we've really struggled, we need our striker to be starting as well, not just playing, making it a limited cameo at the end of matches. We need her there from the start if we're going to come away from this group stage successful. But unfortunately, Michelle Heyman against just relegated to the bench. She came on in the end, and as mentioned, provided that assist, that really nice headed assist for Alana Kennedy as well. So question marks there in terms of what we were doing in regards to the lineup. Looking at the stats from this game as well, this sort of sums up the narrative. I mean, USA racking up 20 shots overall, 9 of those on target, just 6 for Australia, and a handful of those coming just in the last few minutes as we were pushing for that late equaliser. USA again dominating in possession and corners also. I mean, it's always tricky. We knew it was going to be tricky. That's the thing, right? It's not like it's a huge surprise, but just the fact that we really struggled to put up much of a fight was really, really disappointing. Look, we have to be happy with keeping US to just 2 goals. And up until the 77th minute, it was just 1-0, and we were still in the game. Anything could have happened from there. So there are some positives to take out of this group stage. It wasn't, completely horrific in the end for Australia. There are certainly positives to take from it. And for me, the player, the 3-2-1 votes for me going to Katrina Gorry, Mackenzie Arnold, Alana Kennedy. I think Katrina Gorry has been sort of the unsung hero for the Matildas at this tournament, despite the poor results. She's been working so hard and potentially carrying an injury too. We saw her when she was subbed off in this game. She was had an ice pack on her ankle, so hopefully she's all good. Mackenzie Arnold made a couple, really crucial saves in this game, I think, to keep Australia in the match and in with a chance. And Alana Kennedy, solid in defence in this match, and chipping in with that late goal for Australia as well. So this is how it looks coming to the end of the group stage. I mean, Australia finishing in third. That Canada game, man, we're watching it with great nerves after this match. Watching the Canada-Colombia game, and Canada getting that 1-0 win to be that next third place team to qualify through to the next stage. Despite picking up that win against Zambia, Australia crash out. -3 goal difference doesn't look good as well. We knew as USA and Germany especially were going to be tricky for the Matildas in this group, and it's concerning seeing sort of the gulf in class, I guess, between sort of the top-ranked nations, maybe top 4, 5, 6 nations in the rankings, and then Australia now, who sort of feel like we're that you can just watching those games, you can tell there's a real barrier, a real gulf in class between those teams now. And now the discussion becomes, what do Australia do going forward? And Tony Gustafsson, look, we have to give it to Tony. He's led this side to their best finish at the Olympics a couple of years ago, finishing fourth. The Women's World Cup, finishing fourth as well, making it to the semi-finals. I mean, these are good results. That's what we want to see from the tournaments. We want to be pushing right to the end. And I think based off those results in past tournaments, we'll add high hopes for this one as well. But there's just been too many mixed results. There's been too much inconsistency. And this feels like the right time now to move on from Tony Gustafsson. Look, he's done a decent job in these tournaments, but it is time now to move on. And I think that was the feeling heading into this tournament, regardless of how it would have played out. He's been around for a few years now, Tony Gustafsson, but it feels like it's time for new leadership and new change. And as well, even in the playing group as well, potentially some change in the playing group, maybe a bit more of a youthful approach as well. We've got some fantastic young talent coming through in the women's competition. Some of those players, securing moves to overseas clubs. We're going to make sure we give these players good game time in the Matildas setup in upcoming friendlies and really build this squad up ahead of the 2026 Asian Cup, which again, we're hosting on home soil. We surely have to be going into that with hopes of winning that tournament. So all eyes are set on that now. It's time to move on from this era. I think my expectation is that I think we'll move on from Tony Gustafsson potentially in the coming weeks and months. I mean, we'll definitely keep an eye on that one. And then who comes in next is an interesting question. I mean, a lot of people have been crying out for Ante Juric. He's someone that I'm a huge fan of. He's been incredible at Sydney FC in the women's competition over the last few years. I know he's just recently signed a 2-year deal there, but if potentially they could lure him to the Matildas job, I'd be really, really excited to see what he would do in charge of the national team. So a disappointing end to the Olympics campaign for the Matildas. It ends early. Very disappointing. Drop your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. We'd love to start a conversation with you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Lockie, this is Coach with Football, and I'll see you in the next one.